All right, finishing up the back end, the key events. Um, yeah, last time we talked yesterday, we got through Saratoga, which was the turning point of the war. After the Battle of Saratoga, it's really important because not really the battle itself, but it's after we won at Saratoga, we were able to convince France, or Ben Franklin was able to convince France and Spain to join us. So now instead of us versus Britain, it's us, Spain, and France, mainly us and France. But again, France is like a superpower, so it's really nice that they're on our side. Without them, we wouldn't have won. All right, so we talked about Valley Forge, kind of the lowest of lows, right? You lose 1/4 of your troops die because during the winter because of mainly the disease. Like we're not fighting the British, it's just the conditions are so poor that people aren't able to live. All right, continuing on our theme of foreign allies. One of the key people that this video right here that we watched in class yesterday was on this Baron Frederick von Steuben. He was a Prussian officer who aided Washington at Valley Forge, taught army how to use the bayonets, drilled troops, disciplined troops. More importantly, taught them how to brush their teeth, taught them how to stay clean, so that disease isn't the number one killer. He's able to kind of limit that part of it. Basically, he teaches people where to go to the bathroom. Don't go to the bathroom close to where you're going to eat because there's things called germs that are going to get in your food and it's going to make you sick. All right, so he kind of teaches our kind of ragtag bunch. He kind of turns them into like a European army, right? They're well trained, they're well drilled, they're well disciplined, and it's able to help us out greatly moving forward. Another person that really helps us out, and obviously Baron von Steuben will be on our quiz, right? He's all in red here, so he'll help us out. He'll be on the quiz. Marquis de Lafayette, he's a 19-year-old French noble. Basically, he's a 19-year-old French, like, part of the aristocrat, the rich elite in France. And he's able to help out, and he kind of knows important people. So he's able to convince the French king to contribute money and troops to aid Americans. So with these two guys, one guy is training our troops, Ben Franklin's getting on our side, and this guy here, Marquis de Lafayette, is able to help convince people in high power in these foreign nations to help give us aid because we desperately need it. All right, so we're going to skip ahead a lot here. Basically, from when von Steuben and France joined the war, we do really well. It's kind of one victory after another until we get to the decisive final battle, which is Yorktown. All right, so Yorktown is the final battle of the American Revolution. Here's kind of the deal. Remember now, last time we talked, Britain has kind of given up on conquering the Northeast. It's just there's too many rebels, and it's too hard. So they're going to focus more on the middle and southern colonies. Was kind of their plan. There's a lot of loyalists down there that are really trying to help them out. So they have a lot of spy network. Basically, they have a lot of good information. So if the American troops are moving around, the British will be able to know where and when to attack and all that good stuff. But eventually, it kind of their luck runs out. Plus, the American army's just gotten really good, and now we have actually war supplies, and we have a strong ally. So things are really in our favor up to Yorktown here. So in 1781, British General Cornwallis moved his army to Yorktown on the Virginia coast. He wanted a port location for support by the British Navy. Washington moved an army south to attack the British by land. And thanks to our new allies, France is going to come by sea. So Yorktown's important. It's kind of like a in the land area, if I want to make this a little bigger here. In the areas of land, it's going to be American versus British forces fighting each other here, but it's also going to be Britain and French forces kind of having a naval battle here in the York River. The French fleet's actually able to defeat the British fleet, so basically we are able to surround them at Yorktown because the Americans also win their battle on land. So we have the Americans encircling them on land, and we have the French fleet out here. Basically, they have no choice. Okay, so Cornwallis trapped between the American and French armies on land and French Navy by sea. On October 19, 1781, Cornwallis and the army of 8,000 surrendered to George Washington, officially marking the end of the war. After this, Parliament can basically withstand no more, and Parliament tells the king to sue for peace. So he does. So the war, again, it's not like a cell phone. You can call and say, hey, the war's over. So there are some little skirmishes that take place because just the information doesn't spread fast enough. But for the most part, it's pretty calmed down right after Yorktown. Kind of the word gets out pretty fast that, yeah, the war's over, no need to fight anymore. All right. So the importance of the Battle of Yorktown. Obviously, last battle between the Americans and the British. Parliament cut off support for war, started negotiating for peace, And then 2 years later, right? So again, this isn't like a fast deal. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris officially ended the American Revolution. We have to know what the treaty name is, Treaty of Paris, and so we obviously want to know what people get. So here's some of the key things. Britain recognized Americans' independence. That's obviously the important part. Set the U.S.-Canadian border, and we're going to kind of showcase what's going on there. American fishermen allowed to fish in Canadian waters. British to leave frontier forts, and a lot of times they left them kind of broken and battered. The U.S. to return property to loyalists. Basically, the people who were loyalists during the war would get their property seized. They'd be pretty much harassed by their neighbors, bullied, beat up, for obvious reasons, right? If you're the American side. And so, but again, that one was also broken. And then British to return escaped slaves in Canada, which was also broken. So not a lot of things happen here. But it's the funny thing after all this, how the whole war started because the Brits were looking for a way to pay for the French and Indian War, and they're going to make the colonists pay it. The funny thing is, America, we actually still pay our debt to Britain after the war. I think we're just so happy with our independence that we don't want to have them coming back to try again. So we basically pay off the debt. But there is going to be a War of 1812 coming up here. Again, obviously, that's where Britain tries to one last chance, but we'll get to that then a little bit later. But all right, that's it, guys. That's the notes for this one. Pretty fast, pretty simple. Obviously, the revolution is massive, so the whole next week we're going to be watching a documentary in here for the online students. For the in-person students, we're going to be watching a documentary. For the online students, I'm trying to find it online. If I can't find it online with like an assignment, or I can't create one, because again, these documentaries are really long. Then I'll just be printing off or scanning out, I should say, sections of the book about the war, so you'll be able to get the full story. For the people in class, we'll be seeing it. For the people at home, you'll be reading it, and then obviously I'll put some YouTube videos in there as well. But all right, after this now, there's just a couple video clips that'll be attached on Google Classroom as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all the key stuff in a few days. Obviously, massive war. There's a lot of smaller important stuff that didn't make our key event stuff, but we're just kind of covering the highlights here because next week we'll be diving in for a lot more detail.